All right, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Siobhan here, back for another Staying Connected announcement. And today we're going to talk about how to avoid the summer slide. I'm here to remind you and encourage you to just keep reading. Just keep reading. All right. As Dory used to say, I had to think of the character's name. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. If you want to continue to build your ELA and literacy skills, just keep reading over the summer. We'll get you there. All right, I'm going to switch to present mode. I apologize if you miss me in the corner, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. Looks like today I'm not. But as I've said, again, I'm here to remind you to just keep reading, just keep reading. Over the summer, although it's a break, I want you to continue to read, learn, and explore. And one of the ways to explore our world is through summer reading. There's a lot of research on summer reading, but the two main points I want to leave you with are that students who do not read in the summer can lose 2 to 3 months of reading skills, but students who do read tend to gain a month of reading proficiency. What that means is that you improve, you build on your skills, you're continuing to practice, even without writing. Just reading helps develop those skills and make sure you're ready to return to school in the fall and to do well in those performance series and other standardized tests. So keep reading. We want to try and avoid the summer slide, all right? One of the tools that can help us is a site called World Book Online. And when I can get that screen to go away, you'll see that website right there, worldbookonline.com. And if you use /training, you'll get a whole lot of options. Like you can see in this blue box, learning over the summer sounds boring, but it doesn't have to be. Students can choose from a variety of fun digital games or just read. And again, we want to make sure that things are engaging and we move forward to make sure you're ready to go back to school in the fall. Evidence suggests the summer slide is a real problem, and continuing purposeful reading habits over the summer can help prevent learning loss. So that just summarizes the point I was trying to make. Reading is a passport to countless adventures. So if we can't get out of our house to go and have fun, read a book to help us get there. Or if you're lucky enough to take a car road trip, bring a book with you. Read along the way. It'll save you from having to say, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Because you'll be on your own adventure as you get to your next one. Maya Angelou is a famous poet who had this to say about reading. Any book that helps a child to form a habit of reading, to make reading one of his deep and continuing needs, is good for him. So in other words, doesn't matter what you're reading. It can be a comic book, it could be a menu, it can be the driver's ed manual, maybe you're reading how to change a tire or how to change the oil on a car. All reading is good for you. Judy Blume. Some of you may have heard of Super Fudge or Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. One of my favorites was Forever, or Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Judy Blume wrote a number of books over the years. And she believes that if we let children read whatever they want and then talk about it with them, parents and kids and teachers can talk together. We won't have as much censorship because we won't have as much fear. We'll be talking openly, and a book can literally and figuratively put us all on the same page. Does anyone recognize this guy? I know there's a few artists in the group and some superhero fans. Stan Lee. That's right. Stan Lee was the creator of Spider-Man. And he said that comic books to me are fairy tales for grown-ups. Even comic books are acceptable reading. Jason Reynolds. This is one of the authors that you'll hear and learn more about mostly next year. I know a few of you read some of his books that I offered for you this year, but he, as you can see here by this description, he's the author, but also a natural ambassador for young people's literature. And that is a huge title for such a young man who's new to the literary world. But his belief, the minute that you read one of my books, you and I are friends. We know each other. That means you know there's somebody in the world who's thinking of you. So books are a way to remind you that you're not alone. Stephen King has got a shirt that I should get. He's also reminding me of myself in his quote. I feel that I'm a pretty slow reader. And he says, I'm a slow reader, but I usually get through 70 or 80 books a year, most of them fiction. I don't read in order to study the craft. I read because I like to read. So rather than watching TV or getting lost in the video games and things, he chooses to pick up a book. It's all about finding that balance, right? 70 or 80 books in a year, that's a lot. I might have been lucky to get through 8. So it's all relative. But again, just get out there and read. Malcolm X, very famous social activist, and he wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X back in 1965. He says that reading had changed forever the course of my life. So it gave him tools and power and control over his life. It gave him a new way to move forward. I hope reading can do that for you too. Reading is a way for me to expand my mind, open my eyes, and fill up my heart, says Oprah Winfrey. It's hard to read her signature there, but Oprah is reminding us to expand our mind and fill up our heart. And hey, if you don't see the book you want on the shelves, write it. This comes to us from Beverly Cleary. Some of you may have read the books Ramona or Ramona and Beezus. Yes, this is the very famous author that wrote those. But like she says, if you don't see the book that you want on the shelves, write it. And I bet you there's a famous author in our midst. And speaking of not seeing a book that she liked, Angie Thomas falls in that category. She couldn't find books that spoke to her or reminded her of people in her life. And that's one of the many inspirations that helped her write The Hate U Give. She says, I look at books as being a form of activism because a lot of times they'll show us a side of the world that we may not have known about. So again, teaching us to use our voice and teaching us more about life. This is a picture of Angie Thomas here. This is a picture of another book that she's written on, The Come Up. We're fortunate enough to have a couple copies of that on our shelves at Way Academy. So I hope to see some of you check that out when we return in the fall. But something I know many of you will be excited about, in January of next year, she has a new book coming out called Concrete Rose. Any idea who this person might be? And I'll give you another hint. Concrete Rose is a prequel. That means it's a story that was meant to be written before The Hate U Give. Any guesses? Oh, I think I hear Mackenzie. Yes, this is a young maverick. All right, so Concrete Rose is the story of a young maverick growing up. We got to see more of things going on from his point of view. But that's not until January, so we've got a little ways to wait for that. But for those of you who want to write your own story and try and find or give people something else on the bookshelf to find themselves in, Find Your Voice is a new book that Angie Thomas has written, and it is a guide on how to write and how to get your own story onto the page. So the next time you're at the library, you may want to look for that. But I wanted to finish today. I told you I had something special for you. I wanted to leave you with a few words from Angie Thomas herself. Again, this is the author of our book that we studied together this year, The Hate U Give. She reminds us a little bit about Tupac, and she leaves us with some words of inspiration. I hope you find them uplifting. I hope you have a wonderful summer. Keep reading, keep writing, and here's Angie Thomas to take us into our summer break.
Hi, I'm Angie Thomas, and I'm here to discuss the inspiration behind my novel, The Hate U Give. The Hate U Give is about 16-year-old Star who witnesses the murder of her best friend Khalil by a cop, and he was unarmed at the time. And the book is about a young girl who finds her voice and finds her activism. I was inspired to write the novel in 2010, right after the Oscar Grant case. Oscar was a young man who was killed by police. And at the time, I remember wondering what would happen if that took place in my neighborhood. How would we react? And all of these cases started coming out, and it just fueled me, and it fueled my frustration and my anger, but I wanted to find a way to find hope. And I wanted to show the human side of all of these cases. I look at books as being a form of activism because a lot of times they'll show us a side of the world that we may not have known about. And so that's how the novel The Hate U Give came about. Tupac is a huge influence in the book. The title itself, The Hate U Give, actually comes from the tattoo everyone knows him for, the thug life across his stomach. It actually stood for The Hate U Give, Little Infants F's Everybody. THUGLIFE. And since we didn't want a long title, we just went with The Hate U Give. Tupac is definitely my favorite rapper, and I say that because he wasn't just a rapper. He was an activist in his own way. And I related to that because he used music as a form of activism. Tupac had this poem called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. It's a metaphor for young people who grow up in bad circumstances, but they're still roses, you know. And so I tried to make Star and Seven and all the kids in the book, they're roses in concrete to me. They're kids who are growing up in bad circumstances and bad situations, but they're still roses. They're still good there. They're still shining. There's still something to be in awe of. And so I feel like that was a big influence in the book. And it's one of those minor things that people may not notice, but in a way is huge to me. And I hope that if nothing else, it will help people who may not understand our feelings during these cases. I hope that it will help them understand. I even more so hope that it will help young people who are angry and who are sad and frustrated when this happens. I hope it gives them a voice and helps them to see their own feelings in paper and see that they're not alone in feeling like that. I want to give them hope in a sense.
Okay. So there we have it. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful summer. Remember, just keep reading, use the power of your voice, and have fun.